Just today, January 28th, the Vatican released a new document, Antica et Nova, and this document warns about the dangers of AI, artificial intelligence. Now, most of the document, to be honest, is just the common sense stuff that any Christian would easily say about AI. But there's also some really stunning and surprising apocalyptic prophetic gems in there. And I want to talk about that today, as well as its relationship to massive news that has been breaking in just the past few days. First, a couple more general points. I want to begin with a word to those Catholics who will just condemn anything and everything, no matter what, that comes out of the Vatican these days. Stop it. Yes, there's a lot of shenanigans going on in the Vatican recently that need to be called out. I know that. I myself have done some of that calling out, so you can't accuse me of burying my head in the sand here. Although I also want to add that, contrary to my critics on the other side, I am not, and never have, been the slightest bit schismatic in any of my criticisms. I criticize the Vatican, only rarely. I never criticize the actual teachings in the body of official magisterial texts, and when I do criticize the Vatican, I do so entirely within the proper boundaries. I never condemn the Pope. I never accuse him of being a formal heretic. I never advocate for disobedience to the Church. Anyway, enough of that. There's also very good stuff coming out of the Vatican. And I'm a bit worried about the judgment day of a man, a Catholic, who will condemn everything that comes out of the Vatican, but who will embrace everything that comes from a certain secular political leader. Don't be like that. Second item, a more trivial point. No, I am not planning on switching up my routine and always wearing ties for my webcasts unless I see everybody insisting on that. It's been a very busy evening here today. It's just about 11 p.m. Haven't even had a chance to get comfortable after getting home from work. I was on the phone with Stephen Bannon yesterday, and I was going to come on his War Room show today to discuss this very topic. Unfortunately, some unforeseen scheduling things prevented that from happening. Hopefully I'll be on there soon. Subscribe and I'll let you know. Anyway, I'm discussing it here now instead. So, back to the main point. This document has real solid gold in it. There's a few parts of it that I'd quibble with. Maybe I'll get into that more in another video. First, it should have been shorter. Most everything in it I said in my book in about 3 pages. Lots of platitudes, lots of stuff we all know. Second, there's some cases in this document where it refers to things like AGI, artificial general intelligence, that is, AI superintelligence surpassing humanity, and it does so without specifically noting that it's a lie. Now, don't get me wrong, it doesn't endorse AGI, but when you're talking about such a severe diabolical deception as that, you really need to point out that it's a lie that you're referring to, and not just report on it, especially if you're the Vatican. And there's a few other issues it has, but still, in general, I breathed a huge sigh of relief when this document came out. The Vatican, thanks be to God, is not embracing the AI deception, the very AI deception that is exploding today in the world, and even largely in the church, as I discuss in part 4 of that same book, The First and Last Deception. By the way, the audiobook is available on Audible now as well, or at thefirstandlastdeception.com. Anyway, to my critics that I mentioned earlier, I know that the true magisterium would never embrace deception, so I know they'll try to accuse me of nonsense there. No, I'm not worried about that. I'm just concerned that individual bishops and cardinals within the Vatican, who sometimes purport to speak for the church, even when they don't, that they will embrace and promote the Great Deception. Thankfully, that did not happen with this document. First, let's take a look at a couple quotes from the document where it reminds us that AI is not a person, is not sentient, is not rational, and never will be. Couple quick quotes from it here. Let's get my face out of the way. Consequently, although AI can simulate aspects of human reasoning, its computational abilities represent only a fraction of the broader capacities of the human mind. In the next paragraph, it says that AI's capacities, though seemingly, never gloss over those words when you see them, seemingly limitless, are incomparable with the human ability to grasp reality. Okay, let me discuss that for a moment here, because this is a point I've repeatedly emphasized for years. It's not just that AI won't become super intelligent. It's not just that AI won't become the new God, although it will seem to, then that will all be a lie. It's much more than that. It's that AI will never even match a mosquito's ability. As this document rightly says, it is incomparable with the human mind's ability to grasp reality. And you don't have to simply take that on faith, although faith certainly instructs us that with certainty. I demonstrate that scientifically with experiments you can do on your own in the book. And then paragraph 35 of this document quotes Pope Francis: the very use of the word intelligence in connection with AI can prove misleading, and it risks overlooking what is most precious in the human person. In light of this, AI should not be seen as an artificial form of human intelligence, but as a product of it. Another absolutely key distinction that I've been emphasizing for a long time as well. It's not artificial intelligence. I hate that phrase. I only use it because if I call it what I want to call it, fool's intelligence, another passage in the book I describe that, like fool's gold is not actual gold at all in any way, shape, or form. Same thing here. It's not intelligence. It's not a form of intelligence. It's not intelligence at all. So the very use of that word, as Socrates said, the misuse of words is not only harmful in itself, but it has a bad effect on the soul. Part of this deception is the fact that we keep referring to it as artificial intelligence, when in fact it's nothing of the sort. Anyway, I will keep calling it that just because that's the accepted lexicon these days, even though I do so only begrudgingly. Next slide here. Generative AI can produce text, speech, images, and other advanced outputs that are usually associated with human beings. Yet it must be understood for what it is: a tool, not a person. This distinction is often obscured by the language used by practitioners, which tends to anthropomorphize AI and thus blurs the line between human and machine. In this context, it is important to clarify that despite the use of anthropomorphic language, no AI application can genuinely experience empathy. And I'll add that it can't even genuinely learn or judge, even analytically. It can't even do analytical judgment. It can only do blind computation, and even that is a generous way of phrasing it. All the details of that are in the book, and that's kind of some other quibbles I have with this document. It uses some words that it really shouldn't about AI. But anyway, in this context, it is important to clarify that, emotions cannot be reduced to facial expressions or phrases generated in response to prompts. In light of the above, it is clear why misrepresenting AI as a person should always be avoided. And yet, that is exactly what the heralds of the AI deception are doing and have been doing for a long time. They're misrepresenting it as a person, or at least on the verge of personhood. Therein lies one major component of the great deception. And the people advocating this, it's not just the world. Of course, we've got all the biggest pundits in the world advocating for this deception. I go through a bunch of them in the book. We got a bunch of people in the church saying the same thing. So-called Orthodox Catholic promoters of the ET UFO deception, they're all also promoting the AI deception. And I discuss that in chapter 16 of the book. You won't believe what these Catholics, even consecrated religious sisters who are scholars teaching at Catholic universities, are saying. For example, you've got one professor at Villanova University, a Catholic university. She's a Franciscan religious and a world-renowned scholar. You'll find her all over the place. She is expressly laying down the red carpet for the Antichrist under the banner of AI, read through the apostate theology of Teilhard de Chardin. She's doing this at Villanova University. But let's talk about the really important part of this document, the AI document from the Vatican, the part that most people will just gloss right over. speaks here about the presumption of substituting God for an artifact of human making, and it refers to that as idolatry. It says AI may prove even more seductive than traditional idols. For unlike idols that have mouths but do not speak, eyes but do not see, ears but do not hear, and that's from the Psalm 115, AI can, quote, speak, or at least gives the illusion of doing so. See Revelation 13:15. And that is in the document itself. I did not add that. I only added the bracketed remark there for the sake of those who might not remember what Revelation 13 is. So I added that there in red, but that's what Revelation 13:15 is. The Vatican here is referring to the AI deception, specifically connecting it to the image of the beast in the book of Revelation. And this is massive. This is hugely significant. So it's referring to this as a new form of seduction. That's also a theme I have constantly reiterated in my book. This seduction is the same fundamental category of the ancient paganism that worshipped these idols of their own creation, but it's even worse. It's actually verbatim what I've been warning about in many pages of the first and last deception. So by referring to this image of the beast as giving the illusion of coming alive, let me put that back on the screen actually. It gives the illusion of doing so. That is exactly what I go into all sorts of detail of in chapter 18. So this is only a breadcrumb here, but it's infinitely more than nothing. It is utterly stunning how much the signs of the times in the world right now are converging with what the prophecies foretell about the beast and its image. Another funny thing is actually the very title of this document, Antica et Nova, Latin for the ancient and the new, the first and last deception. So anyway, found that interesting. This reference to Revelation, the book of Revelation, is huge because the Vatican hasn't exactly been sounding the correct apocalyptic alarms always. There's a lot of men in the Vatican recently, they'll sound apocalyptic alarms about global warming, maybe, but there's nothing in the book of Revelation about so-called global warming. But the book of Revelation does warn of a great deception, the coming of the day of the beast and its image and its mark. And if the Vatican is suddenly, finally, at least starting to issue warnings about that, even if, as I said, it's only a couple breadcrumbs, that changes everything. So you better sit upright and pay attention because that's very rare. As a rule, the Vatican just doesn't do that these days, but it did just happen today. So it isn't anymore just Daniel O'Connor, some random dude from New York, warning explicitly about the AI deception being the harbinger of the image of the beast. This is the church now. So I really hope that those who have been scoffing at me for the last several years that I've been warning about this will at least start to change their tune. These are not just warnings that the Vatican is giving, however. This AGI deception is coming to a head in what we're reading on the news right now. If you open it up right now, you'll probably see a headline about this. And that's what I want to move into next. I'm sure at this point, most of you have heard about the biggest stock market loss in the whole history of the world that just happened in one company. Nvidia alone just lost over $500 billion in value. There's just a couple news stories about it I have there on the screen. And this is all because of a little AI program from China called DeepSeek. So why this sell-off? Why this? You can't think of a single other individual corporation, individual project. We had the massive stock market collapse when the COVID lockdown started. But this is categorically different. Why such a sell-off? Well, they claim that this AI program from China, DeepSeek, is able to provide almost as good of a chatbot as ChatGPT. and other similar programs like of that caliber from Microsoft or Google or what have you, but to do so at only a tiny, minuscule fraction of the cost. Now, I am deeply skeptical of those claims. I suspect it's more likely that DeepSeek is a Chinese psyop of some sort, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, this little program caused some of the biggest market news in American history, and that means something. The American companies that took the hit because of that, they're not going to take that in stride. They're going to respond in an extraordinary way. Not my speculation, just look at the hints they're already giving. I'll put it on the screen in a moment. They want the spotlight back on them, and they will do whatever it takes. They will engage in whatever deception it takes to get that spotlight back, to try and restore their wounded pride. And of course, above all, perhaps, to get their share value back up. I think we all know full well that this is, in fact, how corporations operate, especially in the AI world, which it's almost all smoke and mirrors. So more smoke, more mirrors are coming, and they're coming very soon. They will need to unveil their biggest magic trick yet to recover from this, and I believe that's exactly what they'll do. They'll respond by saying, the singularity is here, and it's from us. AGI, Artificial General Superintelligence, is now upon us, and we can give it to you. So let's just look at what the biggest name in AI, Sam Altman, he's the head of OpenAI, which makes ChatGPT. Let's just take a look at what he said just hours ago after this. There's Sam Altman on Twitter. You can see there on your screen. And this is from just a couple hours ago as I'm recording this. He's speaking about rapid progress of a machine that is being worked on and that it feels like a sci-fi movie. And that's exactly what all of this comes from, is sci-fi mythology. That's why this is a theme I discuss at such length in my book, the sci-fi grooming. As scripture says, in the last times, men will stray from listening to the truth and accumulate teachers to suit their own liking, wandering into myths. The contemporary myth, for a long time now, indisputably has been Hollywood, specifically its sci-fi mythology. Hollywood sci-fi provides the complete mythological fake worldview that bolsters and undermines and inspires the Great Deception. And all of its heralds basically acknowledge that, Sam Altman certainly being one of them. He says the next phase is gonna, it's funny, these people try to make their tweets look so informal and sloppy because it makes it look like you just don't care, when in fact they probably got teams of experts scouring every detail. Anyway, let's move on to the real clincher here. This is actually from several hours earlier. This is Altman's response to the DeepSeek news. He's basically saying that he's going to respond to this news by announcing the singularity. We are excited to continue to execute on our research roadmap. More important now than ever to succeed. The world is going to use a lot more AI, and it will be amazed, quite amazed by the next generation models coming. And then the real crescendo of his claim right there, he's looking forward to bringing us all AGI, excuse me, and beyond. Artificial general intelligence, superintelligence. He has repeatedly said that he believes that an AI, AGI created secular utopia is imminent. And he's basically now saying that's about to come. He's not even saying just AGI. He's saying AGI and beyond. So, what's going to help make that happen? What other providential is not the right word. It's providential in the sense that God is allowing it in his permissive will, 2 Thessalonians, strong delusion. But it's been diabolically plotted for a long time that something is the Stargate project. $500 billion to fund this AI infrastructure to radically revolutionize it. Who's largely controlling it? This psychopath, Sam Altman and other psychopaths like him who think that AI is about to become a person and then a super person and then a godlike thing that's going to give us a secular utopia. So this amount of money is going to give them more than enough to give the appearance, not the actuality, that will never happen, but the appearance of having created the first AGI. And with this convergence of events, combine this wounded pride from DeepSeek, this unprecedented market collapse, with this massive influx of funding, there is little chance that they won't take that opportunity to announce what they've been working towards all these years, the singularity. It will all be a lie, but it will bring us to the beginnings of the formal phase of the Great Deception itself. And by the way, anyone who says, oh, no, that $500 billion is just private investment, not government investment. First of all, whatever. That amount of money, if it comes, is going to give them what they need. But I also respond by saying, yeah, right, that's going to be largely government. And I can't show this video here, but this video from Catherine Austin Fitz, you can find it on YouTube pretty easily by searching for it there. She explains, no, this will be largely, if not entirely, government funded. Twitter wouldn't let me download the video, so I can't play here. Anyway, if you take a look at that quick 5-minute clip, you'll see how apocalyptic this Stargate project is. And it's not just the personal statements of delusional men like Sam Altman saying this about AGI. It's also the official media releases of the company OpenAI itself. Let's take a look. There it is. With them announcing the Stargate project on their own website officially, they are phrasing this in terms of AGI being, quote, in particular, what they're ultimately after. They are after AGI, and they're openly declaring that this Stargate project is going to be the key to that. Now, here's what's really, I don't want to say interesting, but frightening. It would be frightening if we didn't know that God is in charge. Nothing's frightening if you know that all things will happen according to his will, but it's certainly disconcerting in one sense. This Stargate project, you might be wondering, what does AI have to do with stars? Well, all of these powerful people, and I've got a chapter on this in the book as well, and I quote some great insights from Raj Rare. They're all occultists. They have blatantly occult views about AI. They believe they can download information from AI that derives from another dimension. They really believe that. And almost all the moguls of big tech in Silicon Valley engage in rituals to download this. It's explicitly satanic. It's almost explicitly satanic. Any serious Christian will easily see that it is satanic. And they even give us little hints that this is what they believe they're doing. Of course, it's all a bogus lie. There are no other dimensions. But there is such a thing as heaven and hell. And that's what it's all about. And they certainly aren't connecting with heaven through this diabolical stuff they're into. They're connecting with demons. This project was named after the film, as you can see there, this is from the Wikipedia page. It was named after the Stargate film, in which there were portals opened to another world. And the Manhattan Project has, been the biggest secret project, probably the biggest single government project ever. Certainly the biggest secret project ever. This Stargate project, as you can see, is not secret now. But maybe this will be like the new Manhattan Project. Elsewhere, these individuals have been completely open that they believe this is about to happen with godlike artificial intelligence. So if all of this doesn't sound apocalyptic alarm bells in your discernment, you need to wake up. This is not theoretical anymore. This isn't even just in prophecies anymore. This is happening. This is being defined by the biggest and most headline-dominating events, by the biggest investment events in history. You cannot ignore this. And most importantly, you must be guarded against this deception and all that it is built on. For the last couple of years, they've been trying to inject AI chatbots into every crevice of our lives. I know I have to do this, and you probably also do. I constantly have to click no, 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 cancel, delete, just to get rid of all these stupid AI chatbots they are trying to inject into every program and app and device. It's maddening. It makes me want to just throw it all away, whether it's Microsoft Copilot or Amazon Rufus or Grok, I don't know, whatever Musk's stupid AI is called. They're trying to push it into every single facet of Twitter. And people on Twitter are starting to just believe whatever Grok says. I see devout Catholics, they'll just say, oh, here's this theological point, here's this historical point. Why? Because Grok said so. It's insanity. And this isn't just normal technological advances, which technology in and of itself is good, of course, or at least indifferent. It's part of a deliberate plan. And it's not a plan for the good of man. Elon Musk, for example, he's just like the other tech moguls, but he's been very open about his principles here. He thinks that humanity is just the bootloader for artificial intelligence. We're just the unfortunate stepping stone towards life becoming a purely digital AI being. These people are transhumanists, transhuman AI deception psychopaths, and they want to first claim that the singularity is here. And it's funny because, just earlier today, my undergraduates were asking me about this on campus, they wanted to know more about what is this singularity that they keep hearing about. And I didn't even bring the singularity up in class. But anyway, people who aren't tuned into this stuff at all are starting to realize something serious is going on here. It's all a lie. There is no singularity. There's no AGI. But something major is going on with what we're being told. If you don't believe it, follow the money. That follows what plans they have in mind. Anyway, we've got Musk and Sam Altman and Bill Gates and Yuval Noah Harari and Henry Kissinger in his last book before he died. Got a really important chapter on that in my book. The diabolical agenda is laid out frighteningly by Henry Kissinger right before he died. They're all saying that AI is about to become super intelligent, surpassing humanity, and then they want humanity to merge with AI. And this is an explicit laying down of the infrastructure of the Antichrist. I mean, Musk is literally building it between Grok and Neuralink and Starlink. That right there is everything you need for the mark of the beast. Once you've got everyone across the world connected to the internet with a chip they can put in the right hand or the forehead to connect people to their payment system and maybe their health passport, that's it. That's the infrastructure of the Antichrist right there. All you're waiting for is at that point, once that infrastructure is completed, which it seems like it will be any month now, all you're waiting for is the Antichrist himself to actually announce himself. The COVID tyranny of a few years ago, that laid down the first step of this. But that didn't give them all the power they needed and that they wanted. The devil was wargaming with COVID. In a post that I wrote back, when this was all happening in 2020 or 2021, I can't remember. I called it The Devil's Dress Rehearsal and the Infrastructure of the Antichrist. But I wish I didn't call it a dress rehearsal, because a dress rehearsal is what the actors will do right before the show. And it's intended to be exactly the same. They're just practicing. But the devil, he's not omnipotent, he's not omniscient, so he actually has to test things out and learn and refine his strategy. With a war game, when the military does war gaming, they do that not just to practice, but also to fine-tune their strategy. So the COVID tyranny, a lot of people, they think they're going to save the world because they're on guard only against the same exact thing coming again. It's not going to be the same exact thing coming again. It's going to be way worse and different, because the devil is not stupid. He's using the lessons he learned for what's coming next. And what's coming next is going to make the COVID tyranny we dealt with before look small in comparison. And remember, I'm saying this as someone who did suffer a lot from the tyranny. I got kicked out of my PhD program after 4 years of hard work because I wouldn't take the jab. But with COVID tyranny and wokeism, that was primarily only the leftists that were deceived. And I've got news for you. Being a right-winger, that's not going to protect you against the great deception. And I'm saying that as a conservative. You need to be a truly devout Christian to be protected against that. And the devil is using a much more strategic plan right now. Just look at all the success he's already had. You have both sides of the political aisle clamoring for the AI deception. And as we'll see in a few minutes, the ET UFO deception. Because so many people on the right, just to give one more example, same one, will drool over anything that Elon Musk says. The devil is playing good cop, bad cop with this. In preparation for the Antichrist, we got the bad cops, the Larry Pages of Google and people like him. There's a lot of them. I wrote them in the book. They explicitly want humanity to be replaced by AI. They think AI is the next is when God will finally start existing because they're atheists, but they think God is about to exist through AI. Anyway, they're obviously satanic. But then we got the supposed good cops of the quintessential good cop, bad cop ruse. We got Musk saying, no. I love humanity, and I don't want AI to fully replace us, although in some other cases he seems to want that. He can't seem to figure out what he wants. But anyway, and sometimes he'll say, no, I'm a speciesist, which is great. So he gives us these, and he does say a lot of great things, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I love the guy. But sometimes he promotes blatant diabolical deception also. He says we need to beg AI to like us so that it hopefully finds us interesting and wants to preserve us for the sake of the universe being interesting. This is insanity. The AI deception will happily arrive through whichever path you want. The good cop ruse of Musk inviting the AI deception in under the pretense of begging it to find us interesting, or the blatant bad cop ruse of AI entering as the new god that will explicitly demand our worship. All insanity because, in fact, AI will never be as smart as a mosquito. But you might be wondering, if this is all deception, if it's all a lie, then who cares? Just wait for the lie to be exposed. Because it's much more than that. It's a psyop, it's a human psyop, but it's also a directly demonic psyop. Yes, demons can possess AI. And if you're primed to think that AI can actually become AGI, then you are primed to accept the ministrations of demons under your delusional thinking that AI can actually acquire sentience. But here's the problem. It's not just the AI deception suddenly approaching a crescendo. As I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, it's also the ET UFO deception doing the same thing at the same time, right on cue. And before I move more into that in the upcoming minutes, I just want to emphasize there's so much more that is so vital to understand about AI being the harbinger of the image of the beast. And it is stunning how much all the prophecies from the Old Testament, from the New Testament, from private revelation, how they converge on exactly what is happening before our eyes with AGI, the lie of AGI. I go through that in great detail in part 4 of the first and last deception. Please be sure to take a look at that. Anyway, in recent videos, I've already been discussing the U.S. congressional... some coffee. U.S. congressional hearings that were just a couple months ago, and the blatantly pseudo-messianic so-called Immaculate Constellation document, blatantly perversely twisting the Immaculate Conception, the Blessed Virgin Mary. Anyway, this document from the U.S. government on UFOs, pseudo-messianic, entered into the congressional record now by Congresswoman Nancy Mace. But it's already gotten even worse just since a couple months ago. We just had yet another major U.S. military whistleblower come out saying that the aliens are here. More on him in a moment, Jake Barber. We've now had major congressmen, very well-known congressmen, and senators on both sides of the political aisle. Just as both sides are clamoring for the AI deception, so both sides are clamoring for the UFO deception, begging the U.S. government to officially announce that the ETs are here. Let's just take a look at Congressman Burchett. This is from just a couple days ago here. And let me show you this video. I think it's just like 50 seconds long. Got to turn on my audio feed here. And here we go.
What is your message to Trump tonight?
Disclosure. America deserves to know the facts, and I believe we are not alone. I don't know at what point. I think in God's great universe, I don't believe we're the greatest thing he's ever created. I think that's very arrogant on our part. And President Trump has confided that, in fact, he will be releasing some of these. And I plan to have that conversation again with him very soon. And I would like to see that.
What is your message?
There it is. Mute my desktop audio so I don't echo for you for the rest of the webcast. Okay. ET Deception's apostasy in a nutshell from a, quote, devout Christian, conservative, mind you, U.S. congressman, who just revealed in that video that just came out that Trump revealed to him that he is going to do UFO disclosure. Now, more on the recent developments regarding that in a minute. But in case Burchett's ridiculous argument here has deceived anyone, we need to take a brief segue here to discuss the truth on the matter really quick. Not my own opinion, not like Burchett is giving this crazy speculation that to believe what God has revealed about the nature of the universe is somehow arrogance. And by the way, that argument first came from Giordano Bruno in the 1500s, the first ET promoter in Christendom. He said, you're a blasphemer if you don't believe in aliens, because that would be a gross insult to God. He was a psychopath, he was excommunicated, and eventually he was burned at the stake. Why? If you read what the apologists say, they'll say, oh no, it had nothing to do with his alien belief. If you read what the scholars say who've actually studied this in detail and know what they're talking about, they say, oh no, it was his alien belief. I've got a chapter on that in the book as well on Bruno. You won't want to miss that. Giordano Bruno, the first ET promoter in Christendom, the one who this argument came from, this idea that it's limiting God, that it's arrogant to believe what God has revealed about the nature of the great chain of being. That came from Giordano Bruno, who was burned at the stake for believing in aliens. The church has never apologized for condemning him. They're not proud of the burning part, but the church has never apologized for the condemnation of Bruno, nor will it ever, because the condemnation was correct. All right. Human nature as the capstone of the universe. This is the absolute key to comprehending the nature of the great chain of being. It's the foundation for properly grasping the relationship between creator and creation. It's why God became man. Jesus Christ, God, the second person of the Trinity, he assumed human nature into himself, not any other nature, because that is about the most basic dogma of the faith you can imagine. That Jesus is the only begotten Son of God, that he's exactly two natures. And yet, of course, if there were alien civilizations, they would also need an assumption of their own nature, because what is not assumed is not redeemed. More theological details on that in the book. And Jesus is exactly two natures, not just at least two natures. I mean, church dogma couldn't be clearer from the beginning, from Scripture, that God, that the second person of the Trinity, the Word of God, is exactly two natures, divine and human. Not three, not possibly three, divine, human, and Martian. Not four, divine, human, Martian, and Alpha Centaurian. Two. And certainly not millions of natures, as certain diabolical ET revelations say, that I talk about in the book as well, that say, oh yeah, sure, Jesus is God, sure, he's the incarnation of God, but this is like, he's like a minor incarnation of millions of others that each have their own universes. Diabolical drivel. Two natures, that's it, and that's the foundation of Christianity. Now, I'm aware of all the ridiculous arguments from people like Paul Thigpen that they make in defense of their heretical belief in multiple incarnations of God and multiple mothers of God. They egregiously abuse the theology of St. Thomas Aquinas to make their case. And by the way, happy feast day. I'm recording this on the feast of St. Thomas Aquinas. Anyway, I refuted all of that also in my book. You will find it fully refuted in there. I wouldn't want to go through it here because I don't want to make this video even longer. I'm already a bit behind on where I wanted to be at this point. Anyway, please read it. You'll find it fully refuted. Anyway, as I said, don't take my word for any of this. Take the words of Scripture, the saints, and church teaching. Here's just a few of innumerable such something spilled in the back in there. Oh well. Here's one example, one slide's worth of example of tons of teachings that we have from Scripture, from the saints, from the magisterium, that there are no aliens. And if you're going to listen, if you're going to pay attention to someone who says that's arrogant to not believe in aliens, he's calling all this arrogant. Revelation chapter 21, the dwelling of God is with men. Not not the aliens, not the Alpha Centaurians, not the people, not the aliens in the other dimensions or galaxies, men. My delights were to be with the children of men. Proverbs, Old Testament. There is salvation in no one else. Book of Acts, except Jesus Christ. So if aliens existed, they couldn't possibly be saved, which of course is abhorrent. God would never make a rational creature that couldn't be saved. Man is the perfection of the universe. Doctor of the Church, St. Francis de Sales. He wasn't saying anything remarkable there. He was just reiterating the unanimous consensus of sacred tradition, and therefore the infallible sensus fidelium, which has always, from the beginning, without a single exception, held that man is the perfection of the universe, the very opposite of what Burchett just said there. Pope St. Zachary called belief in aliens a perverse and abominable teaching in opposition to God. Pope Pius II basically said the same thing, although I don't think I have it in this slide here. I couldn't fit it in. Anyway, Catechism, man is unique. He is the only one in the image of God. Of all visible creatures, meaning except for angels, only man is able to know God and love God. Compendium of the social doctrine of the Church, only men and women among all creatures are made by God in his own image. And as St. Augustine rightly says, any creature that is born a man, that is a rational mortal animal. In other words, any intelligent incarnate creature whatsoever is, as a matter of absolute fact, a descendant of Adam. He says no Christian can doubt that. And this is in the context of St. Augustine being very open. He was not some rigid Pharisee that just hates any potential new thing. No. He's open to all sorts of speculative theologies. But he says, in this point, no Christian can doubt this. You're not even a Christian, in other words. If you think that there's rational, and I'm not even going that far. I'm not accusing anyone of being a formal heretic for believing in aliens. I'm just saying they're diabolically deluded, maybe with the best of intentions, and I hope they wake up. But anyway, he's saying no Christian can doubt that any rational incarnate creature is a child of Adam, which of course no alien could possibly be. Okay, so that's all I could legibly fit on one side. That's a tiny fraction of the arguments I have in the book, so please read that. No, it is not arrogant to reject aliens. It is arrogant to believe in them. Because it's arrogant to think that we, now that we have telescopes and sensors, that we know better than God in his divine revelation. Okay, let's move on. We got Burchett and Rubio and Mace and plenty of others. We also have leftists demanding the same thing. Here's my own senator in New York insisting that the day of disclosure come. He's saying after Trump said he'd release the JFK files and whatnot, says now do UFOs. This got 3.4 million views. Anyway, just highlighting this because it's the most recent example. Schumer has frequently advocated for UFO disclosure, clearly under the pretense that he believes that aliens are here. My other senator, Kirsten Gillibrand, New York, clearly believes the same thing. 3.5 million views there almost. Okay. And guess who our new CIA director is? John Ratcliffe. Here's him. He is also a UFO disclosure promoter. He clearly believes that aliens are here, and he is now the most recognizable intelligence official. What better way to orchestrate the day of disclosure? Not just the CIA director, but the highest level cabinet official, the Secretary of State. Marco Rubio is now our Secretary of State. He has long been known as an ET deception promoter. As you can see, this is infiltrating the faithful. Rubio is a Catholic. UFO truther. Marco Rubio's unstoppable force to finally reveal alien secrets, according to one tabloid, which of course, it's a tabloid, but still, they are at least accurate about Marco Rubio being an ET deception promoter. Okay, but it's not just Trump's appointees, it's his own son. Here's Donald Jr. suddenly teaming up with Lou Elizondo and Ross Coulthart, some of the most prominent, biggest voices in promoting flagrantly diabolical doctrines under the banner of UFO disclosure. So, look, Trump is most likely going to be the president of disclosure. It'll be a lie. And I know Trump has done wonderful things. I'm not denying that. I voted for him. I'm obviously very glad he won. I'm thrilled about the amazing things he's done in pardoning the pro-lifers and reenacting the pro-life Mexico City policy and fighting against transgenderism. And he's done other awesome things as well. But please don't let any of those awesome things convince you that everything that comes from him in the future is also going to be good. There is a war going on for his soul right now. And let's pray real hard that he becomes Catholic so that he'll have the real weapons that he needs to fight that war. And while I hope that happens, and I hope he's able to ward off this apocalyptic evil seeking to enter the world through him, it'll find another way into the world if not through him, I'm not optimistic. Everything is lining up for him to be the secular support of the Great Deception. Just look at the populist tidal wave he's generated. You think the devil's going to miss that opportunity? And again, plenty of it is motivated by truly good things he's doing. But it's not a tidal wave of conversion. It's not. And unless the Lord build a house, they labor in vain who build it. This wave is not the Lord building a house right now. It is not our nation repenting and converting, unfortunately. So that means that it is not guarded against the devil nudging into his own direction. So above all, we must not be fatalists. God can always intervene and change anything, so let's keep praying for Trump. But here's the thing. Even if Trump himself is not the main man behind UFO disclosure, it's most likely going to happen during his presidency. Just look at his cabinet. Just look at the current Congress. Look at the immense movement behind the latest whistleblower, Jake Barber. Here is what he is saying. Says it's all going to come out. It's all coming, and it'll probably like this year, he says. Jake Barber is now famous. He's the one I referred to earlier in this webcast. He's going viral right now because he claims that he retrieved an alien UFO. And he is phrasing his message in blatantly pseudo-religious terms. So many Christians are falling for this deception. And why does religion always come into this? He says this is the one thing we've all looked for in all our religions that we celebrate across the world. He's alluding to the UFOs being the answer to it all. Why does it always become religious? Because the Antichrist's ultimate goal is to enthrone himself in the holy place in the very temple of God, and to institute, as the Catechism says, a religious deception offering men an apparent solution to their problems at the price of apostasy from the truth. And to be worshipped, as 2 Thessalonians says, in the place of God. The devil is working on many different fronts right now, but most of them are ultimately directed towards infiltrating the church. Let's just take a look at what the most famous UFO whistleblower is saying right now. Lou Elizondo. Elizondo's book, Imminent, it has taken the world by storm. It's topped all the bestseller charts. He's claiming that a new era is upon us because aliens are here, and their disclosure is, as the book's title implies, imminent. And you know what he's doing right now? You know what Lou Elizondo, the biggest name in ufology at the moment, is doing right now? He is on his way to the Vatican. He's on his way to the Vatican, quote, and the Middle East. Maybe the Holy Land. That's just as foreboding. Now, clearly he was invited. He says he's having meetings with people there. You can't just waltz into the Vatican for meetings. You have to be asked. There are powerful men in the Vatican who are itching to hasten the day when the Vatican announces that aliens are here. Do not believe it. It's demons. That's all it is. Let's go back to Jake Barber for a minute here and see how he, in his own words, describes the NHIs, the non-human intelligence, that he insists are now here. I'm going to play a video here. So let me go ahead and activate my desktop audio.
As I get closer to this pick site, I start feeling odd. I start feeling extremely emotional. And the closer I get, the more the emotion starts to overwhelm me. I feel this intense hybrid of sadness and happiness and beauty and song. And it was very disruptive to me because I had a very practical responsibility at the time to operate a helicopter in the mountains at night. And I began wondering what was wrong with me. It was late. I'm like, am I distressed? Am I tired? And I don't know. But as I came over this object for the pick, there was this overwhelming sense of emotion.
Is it your feeling? Are you suddenly having a mental breakdown on the job?
No, I felt like something connected with me. I felt like something had tuned in to me and my soul and was providing me some sense of guidance on what to do and how profound what I was doing was. And it was so overwhelming that I began to cry. And then I'm confused as to why I'm crying at the same time. And then do I abort the mission? So I just did my best to focus on my particular cues when doing this type of work. And I got the load hooked up and I began flying away. And once it was just me and that object in between the pick and the drop site, there's about 20 miles in between, I felt like something was inside of me. I felt like I was possessed by the most beautiful spirit I'd ever been possessed by. And
Was it loving?
it was loving. But there was a sense of sadness at the same time. And
Had you ever had an experience like this before?
no, it was a very feminine energy, I'll tell you that. It felt like the spirit of God, but not in any masculine sense. And it wasn't like a soul, it was like a frequency that I was connected with. And whatever that force was since that night, it has stayed with me. And as crazy as this sounds, it's what's guiding me now. And it's what's providing protection for me.
It's changed your life.
It's changed my life.
No, Jake is not protecting you. Quite the opposite. All right, so there's just enough seemingly positive material in there that foolish Christians will be seduced into thinking this could be legitimately supernatural. This could be at least legitimate in some sense. He's talking about beauty and love and even God. But what was he actually experiencing? A being that, quote, possessed him. He says, something's inside of me. And although he says it was God, he says not at all masculine. It was feminine. Okay, well, there's no feminine in God. In fact, that would be blasphemous to say that. And he's saying it wasn't even personal, not even a soul. He says it was a frequency, a force, and it's providing him guidance, and there's sadness mixed in with all this. That's not a supernatural experience. You know, the demons, they can create any emotion that a chemical injected in your veins could, but they tend to always come with some sort of restlessness, anxiety, or sadness, and that's one of the giveaways of many. This is not a supernatural encounter. This is a diabolical encounter, mixed up with the usual New Age drivel that they are often mixed up with. And if you want even more proof of that, just see where Barber gets his inspiration. Stephen Greer. Next slide. Oh, there, I've got just a Twitter post from me there first on this, just relating this to the UFO whistleblowers of recent years. In 2023, you know, I've already done YouTube videos on this. In 2023, we had David Grush saying a new era of spiritual awakening is here. He was also testifying before U.S. Congress 2024. Elizondo, you know, he was also talking about the new era for humanity. He says it's, quote, this is a direct quote from him, past the boundaries of reality as we know it. Is that what you want to embrace from these UFOs? I hope not. And now we got Barber saying that also this changes everything. I mean, I can barely begin to scrape the surface of how demonic Barber's encounters are. What I just showed you there is just a couple minutes of an interview of over 2 hours dripping with the diabolical. But anyway, next, Barber here is admitting that he gets his motivation, his inspiration, his approach from Stephen Greer's CE5 protocol, which is quite literally an instruction book, or rather, I should say, it's literally an instruction app. It's one of the most popular apps in various app stores, the CE5 app. Instructions for contacting demons under the disguise of UFOs, step by step. And Greer has long been one of the most prominent ufologists. Part of the reason for Stephen Greer's success in seducing thousands upon thousands to directly dialogue with demons in ufology is a certain Catholic priest, Monsignor Corrado Balducci, one of the worst diabolical deceivers in this arena. He was a Vatican theologian exorcist. He wasn't just neck deep in diabolical deception. He was completely immersed in it. He strongly encouraged and defended Greer. And Greer still uses that endorsement to justify his insistence that these obvious demons can't possibly be demons, because exorcist Monsignor Balducci said otherwise. And as I've noted before, Balducci is also the sole source of the bogus and false and fake news claims that Padre Pio believed in aliens and that John Paul II believed in aliens. No, they did not. I fully refute that in the appendices of my larger book, Only Man Bears His Image. Anyway, sometimes, as Father Carlos Martins wrote in his latest book, exorcists can become playthings in the devil's mind games. That's a quote from Father Martins. He's warning that this can happen. I'm not saying it usually happens. I'm just acknowledging, according to an exorcist, that it can happen. And it's exactly what happened to Balducci. He became a plaything in the devil's mind games. Sometimes an exorcist can be even horrifically more deluded than an ordinary faithful person. And his status and his theology degrees, that only makes the deception even deeper and more horrific. But Balducci is not the only person in that having those credentials that has happened to. Anyway, Greer is the first of the false prophets that I call out in both of these books, because for years I've felt that he may be the most dangerous at all. And now he is again rising to superlative status, superlative prominence as the main figure behind the latest so-called whistleblowers. He's injecting himself sneakily even into the Trump administration. Here he is just a couple days ago, I think, at a RFK Jr. conference. There's Greer. And here, speaking of RFK and Trump's cabinet, or potential cabinet, here's RFK's Thanksgiving party from just a couple months ago. Who did he have there with his family? Danny Sheehan. Daniel Sheehan there, circled in red. He was the chief counsel for the Jesuit order. But his main mission is promoting the UFO deception. As he openly said in Stephen Greer's viral documentary, I go into detail on this also in the book, his mission is to try to get the Vatican on board with it. He founded another Teilhard de Chardin Institute. Chardin's theology is behind a lot of this diabolical deception. I've got a chapter on Chardin in the book. Anyway, Sheehan is on a mission to get the Jesuits and the Vatican on board with the UFO deception. He has openly stated that, and here he is at RFK, another Catholic, at his Thanksgiving party. This is deeply, deeply disconcerting. Now, I could go on and on and on with this, but I really should conclude this video before I hit the 1 hour mark, which looks like I'm just about up on. So much more coming soon, but I'm going to leave you with this for now. The point is, it is all coming to a head right now. In just a few weeks since I published this book, so much of what I warned of in its pages has already happened, and there's no signs of it slowing down. It's urgent to be on guard against this. It's urgent to be catechized against this. And it's urgent to have the knowledge needed to fight against this for the sake of our loved ones who would otherwise be deceived. As the book of Jude says, save some by snatching them out of the fire. Yes, the great deception will come, but the details of its scope, severity, and duration, and who exactly will succumb to it, that's never set in stone, because we're not fatalists. We fight. We fight error. We fight evil with prayer and spiritual weapons. That is our duty, but we also need to be informed. so as to fight it in accordance with Scripture and Catholic teaching, which is what I do in the book. Please subscribe here. I've got much more content on this coming soon. Please get the book. The audiobook is also on Audible now, and you can get it on Amazon or at thefirstandlastdeception.com. God bless you. Please pray for me. Be sure to my prayers for you.